This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD Molly Greening. She is a member of the Mossy Stones. And welcome, Molly.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here with WZRD today.
It's good to have you with us as well. We were listening to two of your tracks, um, Doing All the Dishes, and the other one, I'm not sure if I have the entire name. Is that the good? Is there like a little bit more to the name?
Samon Vita's song, I believe, is what you're talking about, right?
I guess so. It's called what again?
Samon Vita's song. So this is a song that I wrote for a friend who was going through a really hard time.
Oh.
And I think we've all been in these moments where it feels like some aspect of our life is changing in a way that it feels like everything that you thought you knew is kind of out the window. And so I wrote this song for a friend who was going through a difficult transition. And some of the lyrics, talk about how your death and your birth are connecting right here. Sometimes we need things to fall apart before we can construct something new. So a little message of hope for those difficult times that are endings, but maybe also fresh beginnings as well.
Hmm. Yes, I love the your songwriting. Do you write all the songs or do you have collaborators?
Well, so the songs that I had sent to you are both original songs of mine.
Mhm.
But in my group, the Mossy Stones, each one of us write songs. So we're all songwriters. We perform all of our songs together. And recently, we've also been collaborating as well. So we just have written a new song recently called Moving Like a Dream.
Hmm.
And this was something where we all sat down and we kind of had multiple brainstorm sessions. I still have the little sheets of paper where each of us kind of jotted down some things, and we did 2 rounds of that, and then I compiled it all together, taking parts from each of them. So it's been really, really beautiful. I wrote at least the 2 songs that I wrote them almost a decade ago. These were songs that
Oh.
I was writing a long time. I had never performed them. And something that I love about the Mossy Stones and the former iteration of this group as well is that there's a lot of space for collaboration, a lot of value on music that has meaningful lyrics that have a message of hope or inspiration or connecting somehow to some bigger themes. And that's been really, really beautiful, not to only sing other people's songs, but also to get to share my songs and create some new collaborations as well.
What was the prior iteration of the Mossy Stones?
The prior iteration was called the Herbal Remedies.
Yes. Hmm.
And this was a group. I actually sometimes sat in with the Herbal Remedies back in its former iteration. They had an album over 9 years ago, which is so beautiful. And the Mossy Stones still perform some of their songs today as well. There's one band member, Katie, who moved away. And so we thought, okay, let's give another name, have a different sort of sense. But the Herbal Remedies were the original start of this group, where they were singing these kind of folk indie songs. Can I read you?
Yes, please do. Mhm.
I just looked up their description and I thought, oh, this is why I love this group so much. They describe themselves as encouraging a profound respect for fellow human beings and care for the well-being of our shared planet and its ecosystems.
Mhm.
I just love that. I think there's a beautiful way that the people and the music kind of come together with respecting humans, respecting creatures, and
Mhm.
also respecting plant life.
Yes.
So that's just been a beautiful aspect. And so I find myself, I'm not sure, I think a lot of musicians find themselves in this place where I play music with a lot of the same people, but oftentimes it's under different names.
Mhm.
And those evolutions are kind of shifts and different starts. And so the Mossy Stones was a sense of, okay, here are some people who are trying to stay local in the Chicago area, we want to get grounded, grow some moss, stay connected to that kind of earth and creation sort of message, but
Mm,
just have a new chapter here
mhm.
to get some new inspiration and some new constellations.
Well, all the collaborations and these iterations seem to be little parts that come together, and I could see that you have that great deep respect, and you want to pay homage to living things and even the inanimate things, which I see the beauty of the moss and beauty of the stones, and you brought it together. How did you come up with the name? Who came up with the mossy stones?
We were struggling to think of a name for ourselves and trying to take some time. And so two of my other band members, Zipporah Rhodes and Thistle, are actually going to be getting married in September.
Congratulations.
I'll be officiating the wedding as well. So we
Uh,
have a cute connection in there too. But I think they were out on a hike and Thistle took a picture of some beautiful big boulders that were just covered in all these different mosses.
mm,
And I think that was kind of the connection there where we thought, okay, it still has that connection to the earth. A lot of people make jokes about the Rolling Stones, like, hey, you're getting to see the Stones in concert, which wasn't our intention really. But yeah, I think it was probably Thistle proposing these pictures and then having the sense of, oh yes, I think that's a good word. And I do want to add also, I think there's some. So I'm somebody who has studied theology and ethics.
mhm.
I think that there's very much a spiritual level in this material as well. And I have a friend who sent me a beautiful book. Could I share about
Yes,
this
please.
this book here? So I don't know if you've heard of Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's an indigenous Potawatomi woman. She's a scientist. She's above all an amazing storyteller.
Mm,
I have never had so much appreciation for moss in my entire life. The way that it's like a micro ecosystem, a micro forest.
uh,
Um, and I would like to read a quote here because
please go ahead.
yes, this is so beautiful. So she says just in the beginning chapter, and I have to give credit to a friend, Carmen Gonzalez, who sends me the best poetry. But when they found out I had this group called the Mossy Stones, they sent me this quote, and I wanna read it to you and share it.
Okay.
Okay, so Robin Wall Kimmerer says, there is an ancient conversation going on between mosses and rocks,
Mm,
poetry to be sure, about light and shadow and the drift of continents. This is what has been called the dialectic of moss on stone, an interface of immensity and minuteness, of past and present, softness and hardness, stillness and vibrancy, yin and yang. The material and the spiritual live together here.
oh my God, that's beautiful.
And I read that and I thought, oh, if only. I think that's yeah, a sort of aspiration of mine with the Mossy Stones to even get that connection too of these two elements that yeah have been interacting over centuries and long periods of time. So I think that's something really beautiful too of um, I respect my bandmates a lot because of some of their um, awe and wonder over the immensity of these minute aspects of nature and human relationships as well.
Mhm. Yeah, the songs infuse these elements into, into these elements are infused into the songs, it seems, and yeah, they're very, very enjoyable. Uh, so it is folk, right? Folk, indie, is that what kind is that the main genre, folk?
I guess so. I really sometimes I feel that these genres and categories so what I think Yeah, people have called us different things.
Mm,
I guess indie folk, freak folk was a term at some point. I think that there's yeah, different elements probably of folk music, and we have a lot of different instrumentation as well. Each one of us plays multiple instruments in the group as well. And so I think folk is probably the best catch-all phrase, but I would say that kind of similar to how we try to categorize nature. I think
yes,
I think a lot of times these categorizations are a helpful starting point, but a lot of our influences bleed together, I would say.
that's really true. When you wrote doing all the dishes, is that the was that the music first, or were the words coming into your head first?
Oh, that's a good question. So I told you I wrote this many years ago,
Hmm.
and I've lived many lives in this one life. So I was living in a Catholic anarchist community at the time.
Mm,
This is a movement called the Catholic Worker, kind of a collision of uh, the sayings of Jesus and Marxism, and trying to really put this sort of message into practice, very
mm,
much focused on both caring for people who have immediate needs as well as protesting larger structures of injustice.
mhm.
Oh, doesn't it all sound lovely? A lot of the work that we ended up doing was very much caretaking work. We would have open meals, so anybody in the community could come eat food, have, break bread around a table together, play cards, drink coffee, take showers, make phone calls, just sort of a place to land, to rest, and to have community. And a big part of maintaining such a vision is that you're doing lots of dishes.
Oh,
Dishes just never stopped.
mm,
And we didn't have dishwashers. Dishwashers wouldn't have even worked with the amount of plates that we always were going through.
mm,
So it was almost just a constant chore that was there. And in this movement as well, there was also a sense about developing relationships with nature, self-sustenance, growing food, etc.
mm,
And there was a community that our community was connected with called the Possibility Alliance.
mm,
And they were trying to model a life that would be fossil fuel free.
mm,
So really going to a level of saying, if we were to stop relying on fossil fuels, what could life look like? What kind of beauty could be there? And I had heard from someone else who had gone to visit that somebody had said this phrase: vision without work is only dreams, and work without a vision is drudgery.
mm,
And this image just stuck with me so much. I think that a lot of times people can get stuck on one side or the other. You can have a great, beautiful vision of this beautiful society, of these values you want to go to, and then not do the work to build it. Or sometimes you can get stuck in just grinding through the work and forget, why am I doing this? What is
yeah,
this for? Where are we going?
mm,
And there was something about doing the dishes that felt like this sort of
yes,
point of mundane, so mundane, right? Who likes to
mm,
do dishes? Some people do, but a lot of people don't like to do dishes. And I think there was something that came for me as I had these huge stacks to say, okay, I'm doing this mundane sort of work of maintenance, of care. What's the bigger vision here? And so some of the verses that I wrote after that were inspired of saying, okay, what are some of the visions that I have? What are these bigger, broader dreams that I'm trying to work towards? And wear a little sponge and some soapy water. Bring that into fruition in
mm.
very, very small ways too.
Wow. When the guests were using the dishes, were they very careful? Were there many broken dishes?
Oh, we're all human.
Uh,
Sometimes there would be
Accident.
accidents,
Yes.
absolutely. And, also we were using whatever dishes we had.
Mhm.
Let's throw out some of these, you know, proper sort of standards. They were dishes that all looked different, which actually I
Ah.
really loved. It sort
Mhm.
of, there was some specialness to having dishes that all looked different. And
Mhm.
I don't know, I feel as I'm thinking on it now, it's like, oh yeah, each dish was as unique as the person who would come. And really, we would have so many different people. We would have folks from colleges, we'd have folks coming home from work, we'd have folks who had kids, we'd have people struggling with not having a place to sleep that night. We'd have bishops and people from the church coming by. We'd
Oh.
have people just really from a lot of different walks of life. And yet here we had this basic sort of connection of we're all going to eat together, we're all going to sit around,
Mhm.
pass the pitcher of water, and share and just chit chat about life. So
Mhm.
once again, I feel like it is this sort of
It is.
a basic level of humanness. We all have to eat, right?
Mhm.
There's these
Yes.
things that unify us together. And yeah, a lot of beauty and connection in the most mundane things. I think that's something that I appreciate
Mhm.
about the Mossy Stones is what does it mean
Yeah.
to have some awe and wonder in these most basic things
Mhm.
that can really transform life in powerful ways.
Yeah, because I see that your songs are so beautiful, but you never got around to like getting them recorded. But you're performing live, and people, the audiences are really enjoying them.
Yes, we're working on it.
Oh,
I
good.
hope that we will record soon. It was a little bit of a scramble to say, oh, what are our most polished recordings here? Because we haven't, studio recording is such a different process than playing together live, than performing. It takes a lot of that sort of meticulous attempts at getting exactly the sound you want. And
Mhm.
I think at least, the recordings that you played were from practice. Those were not professional or very polished recordings. But I think there is something about our spirit that comes through that's important when you're doing studio recording.
Mhm.
Sometimes things can get very technical. And so, yes, hopefully down the line we'll record some things. We always encourage our audience to sing along. Even Zippy in the band has sewn some of our lyrics, has done some hand-stitched lyrics so that people can sing along as well. So we always do, and that was something with the herbal remedies as well. Even I remember one of the first shows I went to, they were teaching the crowd harmonies to sing. They
Mhm.
were teaching the crowd different rhythms to clap so that people can participate. And I I love listening to recorded music. It can be very one-sided, right? There's something really powerful about a performance space where you're
Spontaneous.
really interacting with the
Yes.
audience.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, we always like to have that audience participation.
Yeah.
Um, but people have been asking about recordings too. So hopefully we'll get to that in the near future. We also have a community garden together, which is
Oh.
very neglected right now.
There's a lot.
So
Everything grows during the spring, especially the weeds.
exactly. So either we harvest the weeds and enjoy the medicinal properties of those, but those are some things on our band to-do list. Get our community garden going and record some of these songs in a more polished context.
What neighborhood is the community garden in?
It's in Skokie. So
Okay.
all of us live in Skokie, Evanston, Rogers Park kind of area.
Uh-huh.
And Thistle is an excellent gardener. Thistle has chickens and a full setup of a permaculture setup in their backyard, and does a lot of work around the city as well,
Wow.
developing garden plots and sustainable landscaping and things like that. So we have our garden plot in Skokie, which has been nice also to have a little bit of geographical closeness and once again building some of those connections with humans and with uh, plant beings and
Yes.
all the other creatures that show up in community gardens too.
I'm sure that all these various projects of the individual band members contribute to the whole. It uh, um, feeds into the inspiration for that band member.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of us are drawing on our influences there.
Mhm.
And yeah, trying to do meaningful work. Zippy is a part of a bike collective called the Recyclery. So Zippy helps people do bike repairs.
Oh.
People get access to bicycles. Or
Mhm.
it's a really great program. If listeners need access to bikes, the Recyclery is a great place to start and to actually learn how to repair your bike on your own. Zippy taught me, I had no idea that my bike had a whole almost like its own tendons and things. I was having issues with my brakes,
Mhm.
and Zippy taught me how to restring the brakes, and I thought, oh, this is amazing. I never knew. I never had taken the time to really look at how these mechanics work. So it's a beautiful program for empowerment and for people to have bike access, transportation possibilities in this big city as well. So yes, so I think we have a lot of influences, and I teach classes about ethics, about theology at Loyola University
Mhm.
Chicago. So certainly I'm bringing in some of my own interests and some of my own yeah, understandings, and having those influences come together too. So we're very much how do you separate out the art from the artist? It's a big question these days, right? But I think, of course, those influences show up in our music.
Yeah, there is really no separation, I don't think. When when for the Catholic worker, were you already teaching at the time you were with them, or you were teaching afterwards? And are they a nonprofit, or were they anarchists to a point where forget about becoming a nonprofit?
Very good questions. So at that time, I was actually teaching in elementary school. I was
Oh.
doing some work in elementary school.
Mhm.
So I think that when education is good, it can engage people at every single level. It doesn't matter where you are. Good education starts with the amazing things people are already bringing,
Mhm.
and builds on it and gives people more tools and skills and opportunities to think. And that just goes through all the different age levels.
Mhm.
So I was not teaching at that moment. I was, yes, living in this community. There were two houses that were running. So they were called houses of hospitality. So people who
Mhm.
were experiencing homelessness could come and stay. It was all we asked for is somebody's first name. It wasn't about background checks or hitting qualifications that often happen in nonprofits and things.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because the Catholic worker confuses everybody. People are like, "Oh, the Catholic Church is controlling you. Oh, this is this sort of Marxist project or whatever." And we just blow all of those assumptions out the window. It was not a nonprofit,
Mhm.
and it was that sense of, um, yeah, there's a lot of rules and regulations that come along with being a nonprofit. And so it was running, yes, it was not a nonprofit, very much valued that autonomy, but
Mhm.
more so the ability to respond to the community. I think that's something really beautiful about that model, is that there's kind of a constant fluidity that's happening because people's needs are changing, people's capabilities and capacities are changing as well. So that really gave us a lot of flexibility to respond to what the needs of the community were, and not get stuck. I've written a publication recently about ways that sometimes institutions will focus on their own continuation against their own values.
Mhm.
And so I think there's something really nice about the Catholic worker model that allows that sort of fluidity and change, um, to keep it value focused as opposed to just keeping an institution running.
Mhm.
Maybe if that's not even the right model at the time.
It sounds as if it was something like a commune plus a service organization.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's a good kind of like some touch points. Once again, we get into labels that bring you in, and then it's more complicated. So yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely, it was an intentional community. Absolutely, a lot of people would come in and say, "Oh, this is a great place to volunteer. This is a
Mhm.
great place to give back." Some of the distinctions that we would make, particularly between like charity and mutual aid, would be that charity has this sort of one-sided giving. It's,
Mhm.
oh, they're the people who are giving to the people who have not. I think a mutual aid framework is trying to say, we're in this together. This isn't about these power dynamics. This is about all of us being in structures that oppress, in structures that discriminate. How can we all work together? How can we share resources? And as well, a certain sense of each person both has valuable skills, things to contribute to our community, to our well-being, as
Mhm.
well as each person has needs. Each person has vulnerabilities. And so acknowledging that it's not just, sometimes the charity model can be very dehumanizing, very
Mhm.
patronizing.
Yes.
And so at its value, I think what this community was striving for is recognizing our shared common humanity, and bringing people together to say, hey, how can your best qualities come and contribute to making the society a better place?
Mhm. Is it still in existence now?
Yes, there's Catholic workers all over the world,
Uh-huh.
actually. They're in very many different places. Currently, I believe there are two in Chicago, Francis House and Sukasa, that are doing some work, and Emmaus House as well, three maybe. But as I said, there's a lot of shifting and fluidity here,
Mhm.
that happen, but it's all guided by some of these greater values as well.
Because it seems as if these are really strong values and then very simple values because they're the core values. And then I could see you translating them into your music.
Absolutely, yes. And I will say, sometimes those simple things are the hardest. I
Mhm.
think that I think that yeah, there can be some very difficult aspects of doing things like this. I'm speaking a lot about the beautiful aspects, and yet at the same time, something I've been thinking a lot about recently is conflict resolution. What do we do when the inevitable comes up, where human beings have differences, where there's clashes, where there's spaces where people need to grow, where there needs to be even more sensitivity and collaboration as well. So I completely agree. I think miracles happen in this most simple form. I think it's a miracle when human beings come together in their vulnerability and are able to walk through difficult times, difficult situations, suffering, illness, death, all of these very heavy sort of issues that are fundamental to our vulnerable lives as human beings. So yes, holding on to those tensions of the simple, the beautiful, and the difficult as well, and having that motivation to continue on and to keep touching back to some of those most core values. I agree, feels like kind of a rudder with a boat, kind of guiding someone forward.
Mhm. Yes, I could see that you're teaching and it seems as if you want to use these values to maybe like address some societal issues, but you're working bringing it together now with the music and the teaching.
Absolutely. I've always said that I'm an activist, an artivist, and artist, and an activist, artist, and academic.
Mhm.
So I do see all these aspects coming together, and I do feel that music is an incredible glue. Music is an incredible motivation.
Mhm.
Music is a great connector. And I actually bring my ukulele to class sometimes.
Oh.
I considered sending a song that I wrote as well about some of my teaching philosophy, but it's called "Let's Transform Something Today."
Mhm.
So absolutely, I'm trying to integrate all these parts. I think also there's some aspect that you know, I'm holding a lot of different spheres together. I think the academy and a commune can sometimes be about as opposite as you can get in terms of values. You know, I work in a very hierarchical sort of structure, and yet I feel like it's finding these spaces for uh, collaboration, for inspiration, and for awakening people's passions to find their place in the world as well. I think that comes through in the music, and that's something I'm always encouraging my students. I say to them, if this ends with me giving you a grade and you never think about it again, it's a waste of time for all of us.
Mhm.
I want you to be bringing your valuable knowledge into the classroom. I want you to be going deeper. I can give you resources and tools, and I want this to extend beyond the confines of this classroom. And whatever that looks like for students, I meet students where they're at. I have a lot of broad interests, so I try to plug people into things that I know. And I get to learn as well. It gets to be a co-learning process too. So yeah, breaking down some of those hierarchies too of I'm the professor who knows everything, you're the student just taking. No, I don't think that's, I guess this is a common theme in a lot of the work that I do here.
Mhm.
But like building that mutuality and also having support.
When did you find that music could help you advance your objectives?
Mm. Well, I think that the music is inspiration for times that I'm feeling low. Sometimes I sing my songs to myself.
Mhm.
Sometimes I need to hear these words that I've forgotten. And I think that there's also been some opportunities. We've been able to do some fundraisers. So we've done some fundraisers as a group for people who have hit really difficult times in their life.
Mhm.
I'm in another group that plays Bengali music too. And my other bandmate Zippy is also in this group too. And
Mhm.
that group has done a lot in terms of we used to do open mics where we'd raise money for different mutual aid events. We raised money for the flooding in Pakistan. We were doing some work with a young woman who had been stuck in immigrant detention for multiple years,
Mhm.
doing some advocacy work using music to raise awareness about just how corrupt the immigrant detention system is in the US. So I'm thinking and, you know, playing at climate change protests and there's actually a documentary that was made about our other group called Ochin Paki
Mhm.
that really has a big focus on the power of music for social change movements. And some of the ways that even internally the band dynamics, cross-cultural learning. I'm not Bengali. I studied in India when I was a student in undergrad. And so I had kind of a full circle in certain ways coming back to this beautiful folk music that has this message of um, why are people so concerned about all these differences of caste? Why are people so concerned about all these differences of religion? Why are people so concerned about these gender differences? There's the divine within each one of us. A sort of abolitionist spirit in this very playful way, a very sort of poetic and playful poking at these structural systems.
Mhm.
So that's something else that comes from this other music from Achin Paki.
Mhm.
So just thinking about all of these, I think my life has been sort of this constant weaving. I'm trying to weave together these threads that feel very, very different, and yet at the same time have some very similar themes. And music is like, you know, the fiber of that in many ways. Music has so much power to illustrate and to bring concepts, ideas, influences together.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that documentary?
Yes, so a friend, Elza Roy, is a documentary filmmaker, and she made a documentary in West Bengal, so that's in India as well as Bangladesh.
Mhm.
And I think it's just called Ochin Paki, OCHINPAKHI. And her theme was about the ways that music can bring people together
Mhm.
for these different social justice movements. And so she made a documentary about musicians in West Bengal and Bangladesh using music to fight climate change, the
Mhm.
ways that it was used as protest music, as gaining this appreciation for the earth, for the ecosystems. I'm not sure if our listeners are aware, but there's been major flooding in Bangladesh and West Bengal, huge, lots of natural disasters and things, very much disrupting the ecosystem as urbanization grows. Animals and wildlife suddenly don't have as many places to live, to make their homes,
Mhm.
clashes with human beings, or having tigers that are starving because of loss of their lands, and then having attacks on humans. So a lot of complicated issues that are connected to this global issue of climate change.
Mhm.
So Elsa made this documentary, did a great job, and she's a good friend of our bandmate. And she said, "Oh, this is so fascinating, because there are people from Bangladesh and from India in the group, but there are also all these people from the U.S. Who have these different religious backgrounds, who are singing in Bengali, who are learning this music." And she was saying, this is just such a fascinating kind of global cultural experiment that's happening in Chicago. And
Mhm.
so she made a
Wow.
documentary, she interviewed us, and it's actually been accepted at 4 different film festivals recently.
That's
Um, so yeah, there'll be some showings coming up. I think the next one is with there's a big conference that happens every year
mhm.
that's displaying Bengali culture and things. So I think that's the next place. It'll be hosted in Chicago in the fall, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I need some more information. I can get that back to you.
Yes, please.
Um,
We'll include in the description for this interview.
Great. Yes, I would love that. I would love that. So, yes, so some things happening with a documentary that's really yeah, just talking about some of the story of how a group in Chicago is playing music from West Bengal and Bangladesh, and
Mhm.
how we navigate yeah, that local and global aspect as well.
Was it hard to learn Bengali music?
I'm still in the process. I have my little Bengali notebook here where
Mhm.
we've been doing classes recently. So really trying to get much better in terms of pronunciation, learning the script. We do try to have a sense of talking about the lyrics. And this is something that's very interesting about this music, is because um, the music has its own sort of playful poetic language that sometimes even it's unclear to native speakers what these lyrics are exactly about.
Oh.
And so kind of similar, I would say, yeah, to just doing sort of a reading. Sometimes we'll talk about the lyrics as a group, we'll think about it,
Mhm.
and really, yeah, try to have the music speak some of those deeper lyrics. As I said, a lot of these themes are about calming the mind, finding the divine within oneself, and kind of questioning these structures outside that bring hierarchies of worth that cloud our minds from seeing this general equality of the human being.
Mhm.
So lots of recurring themes there as well.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. Even though the poetry is in the eye of the beholder, many, yeah, everybody maybe gets a different sense of it, but still there's that underlying current.
Absolutely. And I think even the music itself has this very sort of joyful pulse. Sometimes I think, oh, our band is best when we are literally playing along with our heartbeats. And I think that meaning also comes through in just the sort of vibrancy of the music as well.
In the songs that I played, is there the Bengali influence? Because it sounds like it sounds kind of different
You think
from
so?
other, yeah, from some other folk songs. It has that rhythm. Is that Bengali? I'm not that familiar with Bengali music, but it has a rhythm that I can't describe. Is it Bengali influence?
Oh, you know what? It's not directly.
Hmm.
Um, maybe there's some influence as well, just because this is come into my ears in certain ways.
Hmm.
And I was thinking about that too. I have a friend who heard some of the ukulele songs I wrote, and he said, "Oh, it sounds like there's like, are these like Latin American sort of rhythms?" And I had to remember that I actually first learned how to play ukulele when I was living in Costa Rica,
Oh,
and it was a friend who Seth Robinson, he was learning flamenco guitar, and he's the one who actually taught me some of my earliest ukulele chords.
oh,
And when my friend said that, I thought, oh, wait a second. I guess that yes, I was learning ukulele while I was in Central America, while I was surrounded by instrumentalists who were learning music from Spain, different Congo sort of music. So yes, I think that there might be that influence with zero claims to being trained or studied in them, but having that sort of I guess I'm drawn to that sort of music that has a heartbeat that you can kind of
uh,
feel your own self brought into it. And I think a lot of cultures use percussion in that music to mimic the heartbeat in many ways.
yeah, thanks for bringing that up because I knew that it was catchy in a way. Maybe that's the key that it's related to the heartbeat.
Perhaps, yeah. And I think also we have maybe some of that, like with Thistle on banjo, some sort of hammer claw rhythms, and some, yeah, it's once again kind of undefined, but certainly there are many influences, global influences that come together on a local platform.
And are you writing songs now? Do you have maybe how do you write? Do you write one at a time, or if you get stuck, you set it aside and then work on a couple of them together slowly?
Okay, well, um, I'm juggling a lot of things in my life, right? And music
Yes.
always kind of brings me back home, is very grounding.
Mm,
Um, I had lived in Minnesota. That was when I was at the Catholic Worker.
mm,
I met some musicians who did this practice that they called making a day album.
mm,
And so what that meant is that a group of people would make a commitment and say, okay, in a month, each one of us is going to take a section of time, 24 hours, and just almost like stream of consciousness, you're going to make an entire album in 24 hours.
mm,
And it's an amazing practice to get over that voice in your head that says, oh, this is cheesy. This isn't good. What am I going to do? It's really a practice of just letting loose with your creativity and recording as many things as possible in a short amount of time, getting ideas out, testing new things out. And at the end of that time, you all come together and you play your albums, and it's only positive feedback. People can only say good stuff. Okay, so it's really supposed to be just an exercise of unbridled creativity to get some ideas out.
So each person has like one day to one day of the month. You kind of like parcel them out, like every person, maybe 30 people, then everybody has one day, or
You
how
know
did it
what?
work?
The structure could be expanded. The time that I did it, I think it was maybe 5 people.
Uh,
And it was
oh,
more of just a sense of whenever you have 24 hours of free time, you can
oh.
do it.
Mhm,
But we'll all come together and share these at this point.
mhm,
And so I think they said like you should have 5 songs at least. And they said it can really be anything. Like, don't overthink this.
mhm.
Um, I find that to be a very, very
Liberating.
liberating, helpful. I kind of talk about it like it's just like stream of consciousness
Mhm,
writing in a musical form. So I've written a lot of my songs in that way. I would love to make a song about moss. I was just saying to
mhm,
Zippy, I was like, I think we really need to write a song about moss, even connected with that quote that I just read in the beginning of the interview.
mhm,
But I guess my songwriting is kind of Um, yeah, I think it happens in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I have a melody or some chords that come, and then I put together the lyrics. Other times I come across a phrase or some sort of piece of information that I just really want to build out into a song.
Mhm,
And I did share about we're doing some collaborative songwriting in our group as well.
mhm.
So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful this summer I might get some time to maybe make another day album. And I have a SoundCloud as well, where I have all of these very rough recordings, and I repeat they're rough. They're these rough drafts of ideas that have come out. But I do put them up there so people can listen and hear some of these recordings as well. So hopefully I'll write some more and yeah, get some more time to experiment and just put words to paper and words to music.
Yes, and music to your voice and and the
Yes,
instruments.
yes,
Uh,
exactly.
so if our listeners wanted to learn more about your music, hear more of it, could you give us the where they should go on SoundCloud? And also, do you have any performances coming up where our listeners could watch you live? How could they find out about where you will be playing?
Absolutely, yes. Well, so my SoundCloud is just my name, Molly Greening, MollYGreening. So that's pretty easy to find me. There's a green background and I'm holding a cello. Um, so that's my SoundCloud, and the Mossy Stones will have a show on August 31st. It'll be at Carrie's Lounge, and we'll be playing with Heart Shades, featuring our friend the Reverend Van Ferdinand, who believes in love, as well as another group, the Cindy Crawford Cults. So that's our next Mossy Stones show. We're also always looking for gigs and new opportunities too. So if any listeners would love to hear the Mossy Stones, would like to book us for a gig, my email is just my full name, Molly Greening, no spaces, @gmail.com. So we'd love to have some more opportunities as a band. Achin Paki is also playing a bunch of shows. We just played this beautiful show at a global community garden. So it was an outdoor thing where it was a community, an urban farm where refugees from many different parts of the world grow their traditional food, share meals, etc.
Wow.
So that was a beautiful show we just had on Saturday. And we have two shows with the Park District, the Chicago Park District does something called Night Out in the Parks. And this is just, they bring 100 or so local artists to different parks all throughout the city to put on cultural events, musical events, dance, all kinds of things. So Achin Paki will be playing two shows for Night Out on the Parks. One of
And
them,
what part?
oh yes.
Which park?
So I'll tell you. So on June 12th, we'll be at Union Park,
Oh,
and that'll be at 6 p.m. These are free shows out in the parks, so they'll be outdoor. It'll be a nice summer kind of gathering. And then on July 30th, we'll be at Potawatomi Park at 6:30 p.m. And there's also Achin Paki also has a show on June 1st. There's a festival that has music and dancers, different events, different kind of workshops and vendors. It's going to be great. It's called Ritual Rhythms, and it'll be with Elastic Arts. And that happens on June 1st. So that show will be coming up soon. I actually probably won't be there. I'll be going on a silent meditation retreat if all goes according to plan.
mhm.
But it should be a really beautiful show, and there'll be live dance as well for all of those acts that will perform.
Have you performed before at Carrie's Lounge?
I have not. I think my
Oh,
bandmates have. I'm looking forward to it. You seem to light up a little bit with recognition with
yes,
Carrie's Lounge.
yes. They have a mascot there too, Mel,
Oh, tell me,
a
who's
cat.
Mel?
The cat.
I love it. I love it when cats can be in events. Although I don't think they usually don't like music so much, but I bet Mel's used to it
Yes,
being
definitely.
there.
Yeah,
Um,
he runs the place according to the owner.
I see. That's so great. I will look forward to meeting for meeting Mel.
Yes.
I'm remembering a few things I forgot in terms of
Okay.
recordings.
Awesome.
So Achin Paki will be recording an album this August. And that will be all songs written by this one mystic poet, mystic saint, Lalon Shah Fakir. So a lot of the philosophy that I was talking about, he's kind of considered the big figure of this style of music. We also recorded an album of songs by the famous Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. And this is an album called Praner Alap. And that is an album. A lot of Westerners know about Tagore as a poet. They don't realize that almost all of his poems were written with music, connected with different melodies and forms, which are very, very popular in West Bengal. Even Rabindranath Tagore wrote the national anthem of India as well. And Bangladesh too. So he's very, very famous. We've done our own sort of Western classical plus Indian classical sort of attempt with translations and things too. So you can find Achin Paki, and we have performed that under the Chicago Folklore Ensemble. So both of those have YouTube pages as well. I can send you
Yes.
all these links.
Mhm.
And also, if you want to listen to some old school herbal remedies, hear some of the songs that the Mossy Stones play. The Herbal Remedies also have a SoundCloud with some of their music up there as well.
Yeah,
So
please send us everything and we'll include it in the description for our listeners.
amazing, amazing, great.
Okay, Molly Greening of the Mossy Stones and Ocean Paki, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, and we might talk again in the future.
Would love that. Thanks so much. It's been a
Thank
joy to
you.
chat with you.
Thank you.